She chose the rogue Alpha's side, and now her former pack will burn the forest down to get her back. But he won't let them take her, not while he still breathes. The packs did not approach at sunrise. They held their line across the valley, banners visible now, authority displayed openly but cautiously. No one crossed onto Blood Moon ground. No challenge was issued. No messenger climbed the rise toward them. It was restraint, not mercy. Lucas watched them with narrowed eyes, posture rigid as stone. He did not sit. He did not rest. Even wounded, even exhausted, he remained upright, alert, weight balanced on the balls of his feet, as if expecting the first strike to come without warning. She sat a few steps behind him, knees drawn up beneath her, wrapped in his jacket again. The wind tore at the cliffside, carrying the sense of smoke, iron, and tension. "They're waiting," she said quietly. "Yes." "For what?" "For witnesses," he replied. "And permission." Her mouth went dry. Permission from whom? All of them. She absorbed that slowly. The packs below represented rival claims, old alliances, unfinished debts. None of them wanted to act alone and bear the blame for what came next. Execution, her mind whispered. Of him. Of her. "They'll make it formal," she said. "Yes. And when they do?" Lucas finally turned from the valley, eyes fixing on her face with sharp clarity. "They'll try to separate us." Her stomach tightened. "To question me. To use you," he corrected. "As leverage." She swallowed. "Will it work?" "No." The way he said it, flat, decisive, sent a shiver through her. Below, a horn sounded. Single. Low. Deliberate. Lucas's jaw tightened. "It begins." A lone figure stepped forward from the pack line, unarmed, hands visible. Not an enforcer this time, an emissary, someone meant to speak law, not spill blood. "They won't come up here," she said. "They expect me to go down," he replied. Fear spiked sharply. "You can't. I must. They'll kill you." "They'll try," he said again. She stood abruptly, dizziness washing over her as the cliff seemed to tilt. Lucas moved instantly, catching her before she lost her balance. "Easy," he said, grip firm around her waist. She clenched her fists into his jacket. "You said judgment comes later." "It does," he replied, "but this is the path to it." "You're injured." "I'm still standing." She lifted her gaze to his, eyes burning. "You don't owe them anything." His expression hardened. "I owe them answers." "And if they demand me?" His hand tightened. "They won't." "You don't know that." "I do." She searched his face, seeing something there she hadn't before, not uncertainty, not fear, but resolve shaped by old consequences, choices already made. "This isn't just about me," she said softly. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." The implication settled between them, heavy and unsettling. He guided her back down onto the stone, settling her carefully against the cliff wall, positioning himself fully in front of her before stepping away. Even as he turned toward the descent, his attention remained fixed on her, calculating distance, angles, threats. "If they try to approach you," he said quietly, "you do not answer them." "What if they use my name?" "Especially then." She nodded, pulse racing. He paused at the edge of the cliff, then spoke again without looking back. "If I don't return by nightfall..." Her breath hitched. "Don't." "I will return," he said firmly. "This is not goodbye." Then he descended. She watched him go, heart pounding painfully as his figure shrank against the rock face, blood-darkened jacket stark against the pale stone. Below, the emissary waited, flanked now by additional figures stepping into view. The valley felt enormous without him. Minutes stretched. The air vibrated with tension she could feel in her teeth. She strained to hear words carried upward, but distance stole them away. She could only see postures, the rigid formality, the slow circling of authority, the way Lucas refused to bow or kneel even when pressed. Time dragged. Her side ached. Her hands shook. She forced herself to stay still, knowing that any movement now could be mistaken for weakness. At last, the emissary stepped back. More figures advanced. The crowd below thickened. Something was wrong. Lucas turned sharply, head lifting, his gaze snapping upward to where she sat. Their eyes locked across the distance, and in that brief connection, understanding flared. They were not negotiating. They were stalling. She rose to her feet as quietly as she could. Below, another horn sounded. This one was answered. From multiple sides, the valley erupted into motion as additional pack banners appeared along the ridges, reinforcements cresting high ground, cutting off escape. They were gathering numbers. They were closing jurisdiction. They were preparing to declare. Her chest tightened painfully. Lucas stepped back from the emissary, blade sliding free at his side. Even from a distance, she could see the shift in him. The moment restraint ended and readiness took its place. This wasn't mediation. This was the opening move. And instinct, sharp, undeniable, rose in her chest as she realized the truth she had not wanted to see. His exile was not simply punishment. It had been protection. For someone. For her. The ascent took longer than she expected. By the time Lucas climbed back up the cliff face, the sun had shifted noticeably, light slanting across the stone in harsh lines. He moved slower now, careful with each handhold, but his posture remained controlled. When he reached the top, he didn't look at her immediately. He scanned the ridgeline first, then the slopes behind them, then the narrow passage they had come through the night before. Only then did his gaze settle on her. "They will not approach before dusk," he said, "but they are no longer discussing terms." Her chest tightened. What changed? They confirmed jurisdiction. That sounds final. It is. She watched him lower himself carefully onto the stone, breath tight as pain cut through him, despite the way he tried to hide it. She moved without asking, kneeling to recheck his binding. "They wanted you to hand me over," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "And you refused." "Yes." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. She tightened the bandage, her fingers brushing his skin. This time, neither of them pretended it didn't register. His breath hitched briefly before steadied restraint settled back in. "They also demanded your name again," she said softly. "Yes." "And mine?" His jaw tightened. "They tried." A faint chill ran through her. "What did you say?" "That you are under my protection," he replied, "and that they have no authority to demand what I have not offered." Something heavy settled in her chest at the words "have not offered." Below them, the packs moved with purpose now. Fires were built deliberately. Lines were drawn. No one left their post. No one advanced. "They're waiting for night," she murmured. "Yes." "For the blood moon." "Yes." The word felt louder, spoken aloud. She wrapped her arms around herself, staring down at the figures gathering below. What happens if they wait until then? Lucas's gaze sharpened. Then they force judgment. And if they don't? Then they'll test me. Her breath caught. By sending others. By isolating you, he corrected. Her stomach dropped. "You're injured," she said. "You can't fight all of them." "I won't have to," he replied. Confidence, not bravado. But it frightened her all the same. Silence settled between them, thick and uneasy. The wind tugged at his jacket around her shoulders, and without thinking, she tightened it around herself. His gaze flicked to the movement. "You're cold," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. He watched her intently and then said, "Come here." She gingerly sat next to him, his warmth easing tightness in her limbs she didn't even realize were present. As evening crept closer, the pressure grew tangible. The air felt charged, heavy with scent and tension. She found herself more aware of him than before. His presence, his proximity, the way his attention never truly left her, even when his eyes scanned the horizon. "You've done this before," she said suddenly. He stilled. "Been hunted," she clarified. "Stood alone against packs." A pause. "Yes." "And survived." "Barely." She looked at him, studying the lines of his face, the scars, the exhaustion he refused to acknowledge. "What did it cost you?" she asked. His gaze slid away, fixing on the valley again. "Everything that mattered at the time," he said. She didn't press. Something told her the answer would surface when it was ready, forced into the open the same way his name had been. Movement caught her eye. A shape peeled away from the pack line, moving deliberately toward the cliff. This one walked alone, unarmed again. But the posture was wrong. Too relaxed, too confident. "They sent another," she said. "Yes," Lucas replied. "This one will speak differently." The figure stopped well short of the slope, voice carrying upward. "We recognize your stand," the man called, "and your refusal." Lucas remained silent. "You are wounded," the man continued, "and you stand alone." Lucas finally spoke. "You see me." "We see her," the man corrected, "and that is the issue." Her pulse spiked. "She does not stand accused," Lucas said coldly. "This ends if you withdraw." A laugh drifted upward. "You protect her like a claimed mate, yet you refuse to name her." Lucas's body went rigid. That landed. The emissary continued, voice smooth. "That makes her vulnerable, not protected." Lucas stepped forward before she could react, positioning himself squarely in the open. "You will not bait me," he said, "and you will not speak about her." The emissary smiled. "Then give us something else." Lucas waited. "Give us your reason," the man said. "Why her?" The words echoed sharply. She held her breath. For a long moment, Lucas said nothing. Then carefully he replied, "Because I choose to." The emissary tilted his head. "Choice or obligation?" The tension snapped tight. "I owe you nothing," Lucas said. "Not explanation, not justification." The man's smile faded. "Then you leave us no alternative." The emissary turned and walked away. The valley stirred. "They'll try tonight," she whispered. "Yes," he said, "before the moon rises." She turned to him, fear and resolve tangling painfully in her chest. "Tell me what to do." He faced her fully then, eyes dark and intent. "You stay close," he said, "behind me, no matter what you hear. And if they call me by name—" His hand lifted, resting briefly at her shoulder. Not claiming, not gentle, grounding. "Then you let me answer." Her breath shook. "They'll try to force it from me." His hand settled briefly at her shoulder, steady, deliberate. "They won't get it," he said. "Because of you," she murmured. His gaze held hers, unblinking. "I spoke your name once," he said quietly. "I won't give it to them." The certainty in his voice sent a strange warmth through her despite the danger closing in. Night fell fast. Torches lit one by one below. Shadows stretched long across the stone. And as the moon edged higher, heavy and waiting, the truth pressed closer to the surface. Whatever had driven him into exile, whatever he had lost, it was bound to her now. And the packs knew it. Night settled fully over the valley. Torches burned steady below them now, not flickering with indecision, but placed deliberately. Markers rather than light. The packs had stopped moving. That was worse than activity. It meant they had chosen patience. Lucas stood near the edge of the high ground, back to her, watching the dark with predator stillness. He hadn't sat since returning from the descent. The wound at his side had bled through again, but he hadn't acknowledged it. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself, the cold seeping through stone and bone alike. "They aren't leaving," she said. "No." "How long can they wait?" His jaw shifted. As long as it takes. Her stomach twisted. Waiting meant leverage. Waiting meant strategy. It meant they were no longer hoping she would weaken on her own. She pushed herself to her feet and moved closer to him, careful not to crowd. The proximity felt different now, sharper, more charged. Not comfort. Alignment. "What happens next?" she asked. "They will test boundaries," he said, quietly at first. "And if that doesn't work, they escalate." Below them, movement stirred again. A small group separated from the main line, not emissaries this time, but younger wolves, faster, less bound by protocol. Lucas noticed instantly. "Stay here," he said. "I can—" "Stay," he repeated, tone low but absolute. She stayed. The group moved quickly through the lower brush, avoiding the path they would have taken if they meant to be seen. Not a challenge, not a negotiation, a probe. "They're not coming for you," she said. "Not directly," he agreed. "They're trying to flush you out." "Yes." One of the wolves moved too far to the east, too close to the narrow pass behind them. Lucas swore under his breath. "They're trying to circle." Her pulse spiked. "Can they get behind us?" "Not easily," he said. "But they don't need to." He turned sharply, eyes scanning her face. "If anyone approaches you," he said, "do not answer them, not even to refuse." Her throat went dry. "What if they know exactly who I am?" "They do. Then why?" "Later," he said sharply, catching himself. His tone softened a fraction. "Trust me." A shout rose from below, not an order, not a threat, a name, spoken clearly, intentionally. Her breath locked in her chest. It wasn't shouted toward her. It was said to the air, carried on the wind, not demanding response, but testing. She felt Lucas go still. Another voice followed. Then another. Her name again. Not yelled, measured, careful. She took a step back before she realized she was moving. Every instinct screamed that responding, acknowledging, would snap something shut around her. Lucas moved instantly, placing himself fully in front of her. "Do not speak," he said quietly, without turning, "no matter what they say." "They're saying it anyway," she whispered. "Yes." "Then why does it matter if—" "Because they want you to confirm it," he cut in. "Or me." Below, laughter drifted upward, not mocking, satisfied. "They're narrowing options," she said faintly. "Yes." The calling stopped. Silence followed, heavy, deliberate. "They wanted to see if you'd react," she said. "They wanted to see if I would," he replied. She stared at his back, heart hammering. "And you didn't," she said. "I won't," he said. "Not like this." The packs waited. The moon climbed higher. She sank slowly back onto the stone, shaking now, fear finally slipping past resolve. Lucas crouched in front of her, his large frame blocking the open night, hands braced on either side of her knees, not touching, but close enough to cage. "They're not going to stop," she said. "No." "And you can't fight all of them." "No." "Then what happens?" He held her gaze, dark eyes unwavering. "Then they force a moment," he said, "and when they do, I decide what breaks." Her chest tightened painfully. "You keep saying you," she murmured. "That's because this is my responsibility. For someone you won't explain." A long pause. "Yet," he said. Below them, a single torch was extinguished, a signal. She felt it then. Not understanding, not clarity, but certainty. Whatever the rule was about her name, whatever holding it back was truly costing him. It was about to matter. Very soon. She didn't hear them at first. That was the problem. The night had grown too quiet. No wind against stone, no distant movement below, no restless shift of the packs across the valley. The silence felt unnatural, pressed flat and deliberate. Lucas noticed it at the same time she did. "Don't move," he murmured. She froze where she sat, heart thudding loudly enough that it felt like betrayal. He scanned the darkness, senses stretched thin, injured side stiffening as he turned too quickly. Too late. A shape detached itself from the rock behind her. A hand clamped over her mouth. The world lurched. She was dragged backward with sudden, shocking speed, strong arms locking around her shoulders, a body pressing her down as her feet left the ground. Panic exploded through her, sharp and blinding. She kicked hard, elbowing blindly, but whoever held her knew exactly how to move her weight. Silent, efficient, not an amateur. Lucas roared. The sound ripped through the night, raw and feral, no restraint left in it. The blade was in his hand instantly as he lunged, pain tearing at his side, but ignored completely. The man holding her turned sharply, hauling her toward the narrow pass. Another figure emerged to block Lucas's path, fast, skilled, confident they had seconds at most. They'd planned this. She bit down hard. The hand over her mouth jerked away with a sharp hiss of pain. She screamed, not words, not a name, just sound, and twisted sideways as the grip faltered. Lucas hit the blocker like a force of nature. Steel rang against steel. The clash echoed violently off stone as he drove the man back, momentum ruthless. He didn't bother to disarm. He went straight through, forcing the blade aside and slamming his shoulder into the man's chest, sending him sprawling. Another figure lunged from the shadows, aiming low. Lucas pivoted, knife flashing. Blood splattered dark against rock. Behind him, the man holding her regained control, clamping a forearm across her throat. Her breath vanished in a rush of panic as she was dragged again, this time toward the edge of the pass. Lucas turned. Let her go. He didn't shout her name. That was the difference. The man laughed softly. Easy, rogue. You don't want to slip. The edge of the stone loomed just ahead. One wrong movement, and the fall would be brutal. Lucas stilled. For half a heartbeat, everything hung suspended. Then he moved, not toward them, toward the ground. His blade flew, not thrown wildly, not desperate. A controlled release, precise and lethal. The man screamed as steel sank into his thigh. The grip around her throat loosened instantly. She dropped to the stone, coughing hard as air tore back into her lungs. Lucas closed the distance in 3 strides. The second man tried to scramble backward. Lucas didn't let him. The fight ended quickly after that. Too quickly. Silence rushed back in like a tide. She sat trembling where she'd fallen, hands pressed to her throat, eyes wide and unfocused as adrenaline screamed through her veins. Her chest hurt with every breath. Lucas reached her in seconds, dropping to one knee in front of her, his hands firm on her arms. "Look at me," he said. "Breathe." She sucked in a ragged breath, then another. I didn't hear them," she whispered. "Neither did I," he said tightly. "That was intentional." He swept her back against his chest before she could argue, his arm bracing her securely as his gaze scanned the dark once more. Only when he was certain no one else approached did he ease his grip, just slightly. "They almost took you," she said. "Yes." "Right from behind us." "Yes." Her hands clenched into his jacket. "You said they wouldn't." "I said they wouldn't touch you," he corrected. "Not that they wouldn't try." Her breath broke. "They knew where to stand, where you couldn't reach." His jaw tightened. "They were counting on hesitation," he said. "On words, on law." "And you didn't give them any," she whispered. "No." She looked up at him then, really looked, at the blood darkening his side again, at the rigid control barely holding him together. "They were going to take me alive," she said, realization dawning cold and sickening. "Not kill me." "Yes. For judgment. For leverage." The truth hit her fully then, how narrow the margin had been, How easily silence could have cost her everything. Her voice shook. "That's why they keep calling my name." He didn't answer immediately. His gaze stayed on the dark pass where she'd almost vanished. "That's why you won't say it again," she said softly. He turned back to her. "Yes." She swallowed hard. "Then tell me." His eyes locked onto hers, unwavering. "The moment a name is spoken on contested ground," he said quietly, "it becomes claim." Her breath caught. "Not ownership," he continued. "Authority. Whoever speaks it claims the right to decide what happens next." She stared at him. "And if they force it from me?" she asked. "Then they bind your fate without ever touching you. And you?" "If I say it," he said, voice low and controlled, "I choose a consequence I won't walk away from." Her pulse pounded. "That's what they wanted tonight," she whispered. "Yes." She drew a slow, unsteady breath. "So what now?" Lucas rose slowly, helping her to her feet without letting go. "Now," he said, eyes cutting toward the valley, "we leave this ground." "Where do we go?" His grip tightened, possessive, protective, resolute. "Somewhere they cannot follow without breaking everything." Her stomach flipped. "And you?" He met her gaze fully. "I break it first." They didn't argue. That alone told her how serious it was. Lucas moved immediately, guiding her away from the edge and back toward the stone corridor they had used before, but only halfway. Then he veered sharply, cutting across exposed rock instead of funneling into cover. "This way," he said. "Now." She kept pace as best she could, heart still racing, throat raw, fear lingering sharp and undeniable. The valley behind them stirred with sound. Raised voices, movement, the low warning hum of packs, realizing they had failed. "They know," she said. "Yes, they'll follow. They'll try." The ground changed as they moved. The stone underfoot turned rougher, cracked by age and weather, marked with faint carvings half worn away. Old territory markers, old warnings. She recognized the feeling before she recognized the place. "This isn't unclaimed," she said. "No. Whose is it?" "Forbidden," he replied. That word settled hard. "Forbidden by who?" Lucas didn't slow. "By everyone who survived it." That didn't help. They descended into a narrow ravine where the walls closed in tight, swallowing sound. The air felt heavier here, thick with memory and old violence. She felt the hair on her arms rise instinctively. "You said crossing Blood Moon ground was safer," she said. "This doesn't feel safer." "It isn't." "Then why?" "Because safety no longer matters," he said. "Only distance." She stumbled slightly on loose stone. He caught her without breaking stride, grip firm, guiding her around an uneven drop before releasing her again. "The packs won't come here," he continued. "Not openly. And quietly. They'll hesitate." She laughed once, breathless and shaken. "That's your plan? Hesitation?" "That," he said grimly, "and fear." They reached a fissure in the ravine wall, narrow, jagged, unmistakably unnatural. Stone clawed inward like something had been torn through rather than eroded. She stopped short. "What happened here?" His jaw tightened. "A trial. For what? For leadership." The words struck deep. "You were alpha," she said slowly. "I was challenged," he corrected, "and I refused the terms." "Why?" "Because the cost wasn't mine alone." The meaning hovered just out of reach. They slipped through the fissure into a basin beyond, a hollow bowl of land ringed with twisted trees and broken stone. The air hummed faintly, wrong in a way she felt more than heard. Lucas slowed, finally, shoulders sagging as pain caught up to him. He pressed a hand briefly to his side, blood seeping dark through his fingers. She moved to him instantly. "Sit." "I don't have time." You have seconds, she replied firmly. Not defiant, practical. Either you bleed or you don't. He hesitated, then relented, lowering himself onto a flat stone. She knelt, rewrapping the wound with shaking hands. This place. Did this happen recently? She asked. No, he said. Years. And yet, everyone avoids it. Yes. That alone told her enough. When she finished, she didn't pull away immediately. Neither did he. The closeness lingered, sharp and charged, neither of them willing to name what pressed between them. You crossed this land before, she said. Yes. To save someone, she guessed. He didn't answer. She leaned back slightly, studying his face. Is that when you were exiled? Silence. Finally, he said, that's when I stopped belonging. The words settled between them, heavy and irrevocable. They'll come again, she said. Yes. When? Before dawn, he replied, before the moon rises fully. And when it does? Then I won't have the luxury of restraint. Something in his voice made her shiver, not fear exactly, but awareness. You said your exile was a sentence, she said quietly, but also a choice. Yes. For this, she said, for crossing lines alone, carrying consequences alone. He looked at her then, eyes dark and intent. I chose it because someone had to stand where others wouldn't, he said, because pack law protects itself first. And you didn't? No. Her throat tightened. Is that why they fear you? Yes. And why they won't challenge you directly? Yes. Below them, far off now, a horn sounded again, distant and uncertain. They're testing ground, she said. They're realizing where we are. Her breath caught. What happens if they follow us here? They fracture, he said simply. They lose consensus. And if they don't care? He stood, towering over her now despite the blood and fatigue. Then I stop running. The words sent a jolt through her, final, dangerous, honest. She stepped closer to him, close enough to feel the heat of his body, the steady strength beneath the injury. And me? She asked. What do I do when that happens? He looked down at her, gaze holding hers with a weight she could feel in her bones. You stay with me, he said, where I can protect you. A pause. You don't get dragged from the shadows again, he continued. You don't disappear. You don't get used. Her chest tightened. And if they force a claim? They won't, he said. Not while I'm standing. The certainty in his voice steadied something inside her. She nodded once. Then lead. His expression shifted, something fierce and resolute taking shape. I will, he said, but understand this. She waited. Once we move deeper from here, he said, there's no returning to what was taken from me. She held his gaze, understanding settling into her bones at last. I won't ask you to, she said. For a long moment, he simply looked at her. Then he turned and led the way forward, into ground no pack would touch willingly, into consequences he had already chosen once before, and into a future neither of them could walk away from now. They didn't stop moving until the land itself seemed to press in around them. The ravine narrowed again, stone walls rising high enough to block the sky, forcing the path forward instead of offering choices. Lucas slowed only when the ground leveled into a shelf of broken rock, ringed by twisted roots and ancient stone. No markers, no banners, nothing claimed. This was as close to hidden as the world allowed. He staggered once when he stopped. She caught his arm immediately, bracing him before he could fall. He leaned into the support without comment, breath tight and uneven now, blood soaking the binding she had retied too many times already. Sit, she said. This time he didn't argue. He lowered himself onto a slab of stone, shoulders tense as pain finally broke through his control. She knelt in front of him, hands steady, despite the fear still buzzing through her veins. "They almost had me," she said quietly. "Yes. And you knew they would try. And you knew they would try." "Yes." "Then why bring me here?" she asked. "If this is where everything ends for you?" He watched her for a long moment, expression unreadable. "It doesn't end here," he said. "It settles." She frowned. "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "So listen." She stilled. "When I was still Alpha," he began, voice level, stripped of distance, "my pack was protected by law the same as any other. Challenges were formal, punishments approved. No one acted alone." Her chest tightened. "And then?" "And then another pack violated that law," he said. Quietly. "Took someone who wasn't theirs to take." Her breath caught. "A woman." "Yes." "She was under your protection." "Yes." "And the others did nothing," she whispered. "They debated," he said flatly. "They waited. They argued jurisdiction while she bled." Cold settled deep in her chest. "So you crossed the line," she said. "Yes." "What did you do?" "I went alone," he replied. "I took her back." "From Packland?" "Yes." "Without sanction?" "Yes." The truth landed hard and clean. "That's treason," she said. "That's how they named it," he replied. "I named it protection." She swallowed. "And for that, they exiled you." "They gave me a choice," he said. "Submission, apology, public admission that I was wrong." "And you refused?" "Yes." "Because you weren't?" "No." She absorbed that, the weight of it pressing heavy against her ribs. "So what was taken from you wasn't just rank," she said slowly. "It was trust, authority, your place in the system." "Yes," he said, "and what remained was conditional." "Meaning?" "As long as I stayed outside pack claims, outside Blood Moon jurisdiction, I was tolerated," he said. "A problem postponed, not resolved." Her pulse quickened. "Until now." "Yes, because of me." He looked at her, gaze steady. "Because of what they are willing to do to get you." She shook her head slightly. "They would have hunted anyone who ran." "No," he said. "They would have executed you quietly." The words settled like a blade. "They didn't," he continued, "because your disappearance created uncertainty, because someone would have questioned it, because your name carries weight." She felt the truth of that settle coldly. "And now," she said, "you've crossed another line." "Yes." "By coming here." "Yes." "By refusing to let them decide." "Yes." She met his gaze. "So when you said you can't go back—" "I meant," he said quietly, "there is no longer a middle ground." "What happens now?" she asked. "Either I die," he said plainly, "or I force judgment." Her throat tightened painfully. "Under the Blood Moon?" "Yes." "And if you win?" His jaw set. "Then the law they used to exile me will be the law that restores what was taken." The implication was staggering. "You don't want power," she said softly. "No." "You want accountability." "Yes." Silence fell between them. She finally understood, not vaguely, not intuitively, but clearly. He had chosen exile once to protect one woman when no one else would. Now he was choosing annihilation or absolution to protect her when the same silence threatened to repeat itself. "You crossed lines for her," she said. "Yes." "And you're crossing them again for me." "Yes." Her breath shook. "Then why me?" His gaze softened just slightly, not weakness, not sentiment. "Because once," he said, "I let the law speak louder than instinct." She swallowed hard. "I won't let that happen again." The weight of those words pressed deep. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said quietly, "If this ends in blood—" "Then I accept it," he replied. "And if it ends in judgment?" Then I stand. She nodded once, the last of her fears settling into resolve. Then don't stop, she said. Don't hesitate. Something fierce and resolute locked into place in his expression. I won't, he said. The ground beneath them felt different now, not just forbidden, but inevitable. And far behind them, the packs shifted, sensing the turn. The blood moon was no longer approaching. It was waiting. They moved before dawn, not because they were ready, but because waiting no longer served them. The ground grew harsher as they pushed deeper, older stone, fractured paths, land that resisted passage as if remembering those who had crossed it before. Lucas did not slow, even when his breath turned rough, even when blood stained the stone behind him. She stayed close now without being told, not behind him, not hidden, just within reach. They'll come again, she said quietly, as they crested a rise and the valley fell away behind them for good. Yes. And they won't try to take me quietly this time. No. The certainty in his voice left no room for hope. They reached high ground as the sky lightened, the moon pale but heavy overhead. The land opened abruptly into a barren stretch of stone marked with old cuts and weathered symbols, lines carved deep into the rock, worn smooth by time and feet long gone. She felt it immediately. This place, she said. It feels watched. It is remembered, he replied. Below them, movement stirred again. Not pursuit, not yet. Observation. The packs had followed as far as they dared. They won't cross, she said. They will, Lucas corrected, when they have no choice left. She turned to him, heart tightening. And you're about to give them one. He looked at her then, really looked, at the fear she no longer tried to hide, at the resolve holding it in check. You should turn back, he said quietly. She didn't hesitate. No. This path doesn't end safely. I know. It may not end with me standing. Her throat tightened. Then it won't end with me walking away. For a long moment, he studied her. Then he nodded once. So be it. He stepped forward onto the marked stone. The air changed. It wasn't dramatic. No thunder, no light. Just a subtle pressure that settled into the land, binding and undeniable. Below, the packs reacted instantly. Horns sounded, not in challenge, but acknowledgement. He's invoking it, someone shouted. They can't stop it now. Lucas's voice carried, steady and unyielding. Let judgment be called, he said. Let it be answered. The words felt heavy, final. She stood at his side as the weight of the land shifted fully, sealing the choice. What happens now? She asked softly. He didn't look away from the valley. Now, he said, the blood moon will decide what law could not. The packs did not advance. They knelt, not in submission, but in recognition. Judgment had been forced. There was no retreat left for anyone. Lucas turned to her then, expression grave but certain. This is where running ends, he said, and reckoning begins. She nodded, fear and clarity settling together. Then I'm still with you. A breath left him, slow, controlled. Good, he said. Above them, the moon rose higher, stained faintly red at its edge. And across the land, every pack understood the same truth. The rogue Alpha had stopped fleeing, and the cost would be paid in blood or crown.